Week 13 Sunday in the book. Still have a Monday nighter, and we could have yet another new AFC one seed in consecutive days. 49ers just all over the Eagles at the top of the NFC, and some other teams crashing the wild card party. All that and more coming at you right now.
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look into the NFL on the field and in the front office. With elite breakdowns, next-level analysis, and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show. Brian Peacock alongside Matt Williamson, as always, at BD Peacock, at Williamson NFL. Thanks, everybody, so much for making us your first listen right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there subscribed up on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcast. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app and create an account and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. It's a doozy of a Sunday in week 13, Matt, and things are really getting interesting here when you're starting to look at the playoff picture. And I want to go backwards and start with the Sunday nighter and the Green Bay Packers. And don't look now, Jordan Love's put a solid month of really good quarterback play together, maybe even more than a month, 4 or 5 weeks straight, right? He's played some really good ball, and the Green Bay Packers are starting to look like a competitive football team again after they were kind of left for dead in the first quarter of the season. The Rams are an interesting team as well, too, making things interesting, especially with the Seahawks loss this week and kind of opening things up in that wild card scenario in the NFC with a bunch of these 6-6 teams after a big gap, between 49ers, Eagles, and Cowboys. And we'll get to that a little bit later with Niners, Eagles. But let's talk Green Bay Packers, who defeated Sunday night the used to be 1 seed in the AFC, Kansas City Chiefs. 27-19 was the final. Packers improved to 6-6. The Chiefs fall to 8-4 on the 2023 season.
Yeah, the Packers are hot, and they're coming together at the right time. I want to talk about them here in a second, but just one theme of the weekend or of yesterday, just want to make sure we talk, or at least throw out there, was a lot of injuries and a lot of weather on the East Coast. A lot of rain and nastiness, but not necessarily cold, so that was something everybody had to deal with. But traveling to Green Bay is tough. I mean, go to Sunday night, the hallowed halls, all the history of it all. But that aside, Green Bay is just a good football team, and they're playing really, really well. I think LaFleur might have thrown his hat into Coach of the Year ranks. I mean, considering how young that offense is and not really having Aaron Jones for much of the year and, developing a passing game, developing a quarterback. I think you probably have to extend Love at this point. They look like a playoff team. They definitely look like one of the best 7 teams in the NFC for our viewing pleasure. But I didn't look at Kansas City and think, boy, they're terrible. I think their tackles are bad. I think they need help with another pass catcher, as we talk about so often. And Green Bay got after Mahomes pretty well. But Pacheco and company ran the ball pretty well. And I'm not super worried about the Chiefs.
I'm not worried about the Chiefs, but they're not. This is maybe the worst version of the Chiefs.
Agreed.
Their defense is better. And, the defense could have played a little bit better in this one. It's such a young defense. Spagnuolo does a great job there, obviously, as a defensive coordinator. And they're a well-coached football team, so the Chiefs are always going to be good. They're always going to be in it. They could beat anybody on any given Sunday, right? But the Chiefs aren't a scary team, and they might be representing the AFC in the Super Bowl, but this is a year that things are a little bit more up in the air, and I could see the Chiefs, losing in the first round of the playoffs. I can see the Chiefs rolling into the 1 seed and into the Super Bowl as well. They're not a scary team right now, which opened things up for some of the conversations we're going to have a little bit later about who the 1 seed is right now and who could be tomorrow the 1 seed in the AFC. And this thing just got, I think, a lot more interesting for multiple reasons that we're going to talk about today, including in the NFC side. So fantastic the way this tournament's starting to shake up now after 13 weeks.
It is. Last thing I got on the Chiefs is, analytics have told us this for a decade. It's great that they have the best defense Mahomes has ever had. And I mentioned Pacheco running really well. Well, I'd rather throw all that away and have Tyreek and Kelsey and, can score 7 in a heartbeat anytime. Like, never give me the ball back and I'll just torture you. That still is champion in the league. And I think Mahomes doesn't trust his tackles. That edge pressure, they're bad. And I also don't think he trusts his receivers. Like, just his body language. I don't remember the exact play, but they should have had a long one to Valdez-Scantling. But they made note of it on the broadcast. If he just runs that right up the numbers, that's maybe a touchdown. But he drifts his route. And Mahomes puts his palms in the air. Like, this isn't that hard, guys.
No, I don't blame him for not trusting him, because I don't trust him when I'm watching the game, and my livelihood doesn't depend on it. And, he's making throws, and it's tough. And nobody's, Rashee Rice as a rookie's kind of showing something, but he's not really. I feel like they need to. I put a little bit of it. I mean, I put a lot of it on, because Patrick Mahomes doesn't draft the players, right? But I do put a little bit on it with the coaching staff and in the front office.
The team build,
the team building. They knew this was the thing at the trade deadline. They went and got another guy who's in Hardman, Mecole Hardman, who they already had and didn't care to let walk. Yeah. And Brian Peacock, who's just another guy in the mix here. They didn't do anything to solidify it. I feel like they need to go scrap the depth chart, pick 3 guys, and one of them probably should not be Valdez-Scantling. Be like, these are our guys now, and let's go. Because I just feel like you'll see Richie James in there and Rice in there, and then you see
Moore. Right.
What is going on? Pick 3 guys and go to town. You got the best quarterback in the league.
And I hadn't thought of this, but the flip side is, that's what was happening to Green Bay's passing game in the first month, but now they're all getting it. Watson, Wicks, Kraft, Reed, they're all getting it. The Chiefs receivers aren't getting it.
So stock up for sure for the Green Bay Packers, who are at 6-6 now, and as of today would be the 7 seed, actually ahead of the Seattle Seahawks right now. And so we have Vikings, Packers, Rams, Seahawks, all at 6-6 now in the NFC, vying for 2 of those spots. So 2 of those teams are going to be outside looking in, and depending on what happens with the NFC South, because you got the 6-6 Atlanta Falcons, who defeated the New York Jets this week. And I don't even know if there's much notes to put on this one with the 13-8 ugly score. They started off with 2 points in the first quarter. The Jets did, and a couple more field goals for the offense. I mean, the Jets are just awful in a bad spot, and you're seeing Joe Flacco with the Browns play a little bit better, although they didn't win either. But 13-8 win for the Falcons, and with the Saints loss to the Lions now, 33-28 win for the Lions hanging on. They went up early, and the Saints battled back, but the Lions ended up winning that one. So now the Falcons are first place at 500 at 6-6 in the NFC South.
Part of me doesn't even want to talk about the NFC South the rest of the year, because one of these bad teams is going to win, and then Dallas is going to come to their town and put 40 on.
That's actually good.
You know what I mean?
Let's not mention the NFC South until we preview the team that we picked to beat them in the first round of the playoffs.
I mean, Carolina's picking first overall. They don't even have the pick. Tampa once in a while looks okay. The Saints are 100 years old, and the Falcons can barely beat a Jets team that doesn't have a quarterback. All right, enough.
It's pretty ugly. Saints in the driver, or the Falcons in the driver's seat now, and I thought I thought there was going to be like a car benching and a coach firing in the first half of the Saints Lions game for the Saints, and the Saints battled back, and the Lions almost blew that one. They had a 21-0 lead in the first quarter, and that ended up being 33-28. The Lions did hang on though to win that game, and at 9-3, the Lions are the 3 seed. They would lose the tiebreaker to the 49ers for the 2 seed right now, but the Lions don't look like a team that you're scared to play at all.
Yeah. 2 things I wanted to bring up with the Lions, and I've been talking about this for a couple of weeks. Their defense is questionable. I mean, I don't know if teams have figured them out. There are some injuries, but that's not unique to the Lions. But the last month or so, their defense has been bad. And it was in the second half of this game. And it was just one play. But I remembered why I loved Jameson Williams coming out of Bama. I mean, they got him the ball on that end around, and he looked like Ted Ginn, just flying down the field in a straight line. He could be a nice wrinkle to add to an already good offense.
I like that comp. They're different stylistically, but the speed of Ted Ginn, where maybe you're not going to be a high volume receiver ever, but you can make a big play. And maybe that's the direction of the career for Jameson Williams and how he needs to be utilized there. And it's a nice wrinkle to have there, and someone that you haven't seen a lot of, that is absolutely going to help you be explosive if you're the Lions heading into the last half of the season and into the playoffs, and they will be there into the playoffs. Okay, let's go to the NFC West next. And then
give me 10 seconds. I have to say this story. Teddy Ginn Jr. was a Glenville Tar-Blooder playing for Teddy Ginn Sr. with Dante Whitner. You and I talked about him too.
Yeah.
And Teddy came down to Pitt, USC, and Ohio State. And he was on our official visit, and we knew we were third in the ranks. And at the end of the thing, he goes, "Hey, can I see your guys' track? I never saw the track here." He's a phenomenal track sorter. He's like, "We don't have a track. We run at a local high school." And Teddy's like, "Oh, that's nice. I'm not no chance of coming here." He almost didn't go to college and went to the Olympics for hurdling. I mean, like, he was that kind of athlete.
Yeah, geez, yeah. Teddy Ginn, none faster, but not great for breaking off routes with those track strides either.
Right.
Next, okay, NFC West. Rams interesting in that mix with the wild card, and the 49ers huge statement game. And also, how about the 1 seed up for grabs in the AFC as well next? Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by BetterHelp Online Therapy. And if your family or your if you have the type of family that might be the gift giving type during the holiday season, right, and is part of a community, do you do gift exchanges? Do you donate? Do you donate your time? Do you donate your money? What about vacations, experience? Are you the type of family who gives a lot of gifts? Do you give out cards? Do you focus on just enjoying your time together as a family, right? No matter how it is for you and your family during the holidays, whether or not you are a family that gives gifts, or whether you define yourself some other way and some other style during the holidays, give a gift to yourself. Do not forget about yourself this holiday season. And the holidays are a great time to give a gift to yourself. And remember, whether it's by starting therapy, going easier on yourself during tough moments, or treating yourself to a day of complete rest, remember to give yourself some love this holiday season. If you thought about giving therapy a try BetterHelp, entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, suited to your schedule. All you do is you fill out a brief questionnaire. You get matched with a licensed therapist, switch therapists anytime if you don't hit it off with your initial therapist, no additional charge, and try the gift of therapy and give a gift to yourself this holiday season. In the season of giving, give the gift that you might very much need with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Los Angeles Rams first here. They defeated the Cleveland Browns. The Browns are in a tough spot now. Browns 7-5 with Joe Flacco at quarterback this week. Comes in and starts the game and looked okay. And the Los Angeles Rams now improving to 6-6, 36-19 win for the Los Angeles Rams, and big game for Matthew Stafford, throwing 3 touchdown passes and actually doing a number on that Browns defense when it wasn't really Flacco's the problem. It was actually the Browns defense that gave up 36 points to the Rams in LA. Interesting couple of teams here fighting for those wild card spots in the AFC and NFC respectively. And the Rams have to be taken seriously, even though I'm not sure they're going to be there in the end. But Rams and Packers are teams that we left for dead a few weeks ago that are making things very interesting right now in the NFC.
Yeah, they're the teams I want to see as a fan. Yeah, I mean, I want to see more Green Bay. I want to see more Rams. And the Browns feel like they're holding on for dear life in a way. And they lost Amari Cooper. You don't
want to see, even though they have a better record and might have a better shot at the playoffs.
Exactly. And they didn't play bad. Their offense certainly wasn't bad. Flacco wasn't terrible. But I'm starting to think the Rams, and a lot of this is just McVay, Stafford, are going to move the ball against just about anybody. I mean, they can run, they can throw. They're so well coached. I think he should be in the coach of the year conversation now too. And, they threw together an offensive line and defense with spare parts, and they're not bad at either one of those spots. And a lot of their draft picks are hitting. And so, the future's kind of bright for LA too.
I feel like I would still Would you rather play the Rams or the Browns? I'd rather play against the Rams because I just don't think
depends
they're
how I'm
good
built.
enough. And the Browns defense might beat up my team. I would rather play the Rams, I think.
I hear you. Like, I always bring back the Steelers, but if you're one of these defensive run the ball teams, or you're New England and you want to play the Browns, like first 1 to 10 wins, that's your style. But if you're Miami, you might just want the shootout, or maybe if it's vice versa. Maybe if you're Miami, you want to play the rock fight team. I don't know,
The Jets win this week if they had Joe Flacco instead of Tim Boyle at quarterback.
Yeah. But let's see how he feels on Monday morning. Let's see how he feels after 2 games of getting hit. You know what I mean? Like,
take another retired off before I play again.
Right. Like all these retired athletes, it's probably crossed your mind in baseball. Like, I could go play 1 game, at my age, give me 1 shot.
Right.
You wouldn't get out of bed for a week, but that's all right.
I'm hurting after a slow pitch softball game, and forget about it if I go play a few pickup basketball games. I'm done for a week.
Oh, I think I told you the story when I got hurt playing darts over Christmas.
Hey, you know what team, Matt? I would absolutely not want to play, and it's the San Francisco 49ers, who
They're
just
the best team in the league. It's not even close.
Went to Philadelphia with all the trash talk and dominated. And they dominated them in 3 quarters because they did nothing. They were 3 and out twice and down 6-0 after the first quarter. Then went 2 touchdowns in the final 3 quarters of the game to beat the Eagles 42-19, Matt. I thought the 49ers were the better team healthy coming in, but the Eagles are 10-1 coming in for a reason, and it was at their house, maybe a little bit of weather too, and man, the 49ers thoroughly dominated that football game.
Both sides of the ball, run or pass on both sides of the ball, pass rush or cover or run defense or middle of the field, and that's true for both sides of the ball. Like, they're so well-rounded. They're so well-coached. They have such star power. And some people might fall out of their seats, but I probably would vote Brock Purdy as MVP right now, slightly over Dak Prescott. And honorable mention to Tyreek Hill. And, I thought they did a great job against the Eagles receivers. I thought they just made adjustment after adjustment throughout the game, and the Eagles couldn't. The Niners are the best team in the league.
And, of Brock Purdy's 314 passing yards, 200 of those were after the catch. So, you got to tip your hat to Deebo Samuel, who did the most talking over the course of the last, 8 to 9 months. He backed it up. 3 touchdowns running through that Eagles defense. I mean, they were awful tackling the 49ers in this one. But Brock Purdy ended up with 314 passing yards, 4 touchdown passes, and sort of the whole conversation of, man, what would it look like if the 49ers had a quarterback in the NFC Championship game, and really validated everything Brock Purdy's done. By the way, which today, right now, Monday, December 4th, is the 1-year anniversary of Jimmy Garoppolo getting hurt against the Miami Dolphins and Brock Purdy trotting on the football field. And
wow, it's only been that long.
Yeah. So 1 calendar year of football for Brock Purdy and the San Francisco 49ers. And he has a 17-4 record, including the playoffs, 39 touchdowns to 9 interceptions, and number 1 over that span with a 114.2 passer rating.
Wow. I mean, think of all the excuses like I sit here and make for Pickett. Like, he's only started 24 games. He's going to get better. Or even Love, who looks like he's turning the corner. Boy, he's only started a handful of games. Wait till he gets better. Or Fields, he's showing signs, as a young starter. Purdy's been a starting quarterback for 1 calendar year. That's like nothing. That's really remarkable.
Go ahead. Elbow UCL surgery in between as well.
Yeah. So last question for you here. Studying the Eagles, watching every snap of this game as you did, is their back 7 on defense a real problem? Is that their Achilles heel? Could they maybe not win the Super Bowl because of that?
The 49ers didn't attack the corners on the outside, but passer rating against for Bradbury and Slay has taken a step back from where they were last year. But really where the 49ers killed them was over the middle of the field, linebackers and safeties. The linebackers are on spin cycle. They couldn't stop the run, and they couldn't tackle anybody. And it wasn't just Deebo either. They couldn't tackle anybody all game long. So that is a little bit of a problem, back 7 for the Philadelphia Eagles. And they were good up front. Their line was awesome to start the game and gave the 49ers problem on the defensive line. Lane Johnson was really good against Nick Bosa. Their offensive line is good. They were able to get a tush-push touchdown. The only touchdown they had in the game, double tush push back to back. And the
didn't seem like the Niners D-line dominated the game. That's not the reason they won. It was other things.
No. And then the Niners did a good job against the run, and they did a good job in coverage because their pass rush plan wasn't to get home to the quarterback. It was to corral him and keep him in the pocket, which worked for the most part. And Jalen Hurts got away a couple of times and made a couple of plays, but the 49ers secondary and the 49ers back seven, and the 49ers secondary doesn't get a lot of credit and a lot of publicity. The 49ers really back seven was a lot better than the Eagles back seven.
Yeah. That absolutely showed up.
Next, let's talk AFC. Let's talk Miami Dolphins, the current 1 seed, which could change by Monday Night Football, and a whole lot more from Week 13 to finish up this episode of Peacock and Williamson. This episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app and get $20 off your first ticket purchase with promo code LOCKEDONNFL. More on that momentarily, because when it comes to buying tickets, it shouldn't be a hassle. It should be fun and exciting when you're buying tickets to your next big event, whether it's a NFL football game, college football, basketball, hockey, baseball, whatever it is. Any tickets for all the sports, concerts, music, comedy, theater events near you. You get killer last minute deals, all in prices, views from your seat, and the best price guarantee from Gametime, taking all the guesswork out of buying tickets. You see the view from your seat, so when you buy your ticket and you get to the event, you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. All in prices show your total up front at Gametime. My favorite part, you don't get hit with those hidden fees when you're checking out that doubles the price of your ticket. You already know what everything's going to cost with those all in prices up front. And couple taps, you buy your tickets. It's right there on the app. You don't have to fish through your email when you do get to your event. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime and find some really fantastic last minute deals with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Miami Dolphins defeated. Who did they defeat? They defeated
Washington.
Washington Commanders are a mess, by the way.
They're done. Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry to interrupt. My takeaway with this is they're now in that bottom tier. They're in that Patriot, Giants, Carolina tier where they were above it for most of the year.
I think they're in the interim head coach tier is where they should be.
Junk
right?
tier.
Yeah. 45-15 the final. Not surprising. We both
they're like an interim organization. New.
Well, yeah, and really, in reality, 2024 is going to be the complete reset. New ownership for the
rookie year,
and start fresh, start anew. And who knows? They might pick a new name and have different uniforms too. Like that's there's still a lot more changes to come for the Commanders, and so evaluation mode the rest of the year here for those folks who might be a part of that. Hopefully
forward. They get D'Amico Ryans and CJ Stroud, and a year from now we're like, oh, this is a promising upstart team.
Yes, yeah, that's this year's done. They're looking bad. They can't cover anybody. We said in our preview, start everybody on the Dolphins in your fantasy leagues, and that's what this looked like. Whether it was Mostert or Achane with a couple of touchdowns. Tyreek Hill, he only had 5 catches, but went for 157 and 2 scores. 45-15 the total here, and right now today, Matt. The Miami Dolphins at 9-3 would be the 1 seed in the AFC.
Yeah, good for them. I mean, they're a powerhouse so I was just doing some homework. I mean, over the last 3 games, they're allowing the smallest yards per play. Their defense has really stepped up, even without Phillips. The offense is the most explosive in the league, right there with the Niners, I would imagine. They're in a great spot. I mean, if they get the 1 seed too and never have to travel to cold weather places, Kansas City, but wherever, I think that would go a long way. Even though it's not 100 degrees there in January, at least you're not going to the frozen tundras and slow down your team.
Yeah. I believe the Dolphins are number 2 in DVOA behind the 49ers right now. I think.
Are they?
Yeah, I think that's exactly where those two.
Very impressive.
And then pending Jacksonville Jaguars Monday Night Football, might jump back over the top of the Dolphins and be the 1 seed via tiebreaker at 9-3, along with the Ravens, who sat at home at 9-3, and it's just conference tiebreakers at this point between those teams at 9-3 atop the AFC. Another team in the AFC who we got to talk about here, Matt, was the Houston Texans, who defeated the Denver Broncos 22-17 and are now sitting kind of pretty at 7-5 in the AFC.
Yeah, I mean, they lose Tank Dell. Unfortunately, that's going to have season-long ramifications.
Actually,
That's a bummer.
Can we stop there? What is a 155-pound wide receiver doing?
Yes,
in between the trees, taking on a tight end in a I understand you want to have your players on the field and you want to bunch players up, but that's a player that can't be in that area.
No. Maybe not even on the field in that situation. You know what I mean?
Wide receiver, right? Yeah, it's so that's unfortunate because that's something that should never have happened, and that hurts because you have a lack of playmakers anyway. I think on that offense, and he's been a phenomenal rookie this year. But a broken fibula, he's done for the season. That's something. He's about speed. That might hamper him for his career.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate. There were a lot of injuries this weekend, none worse than that. Stroud was still spectacular. I love Nico Collins. He steps up 9 for 191. I mean, but boy, it'd be nice to have both of them the rest of the year. Your boy Will Anderson had a great game. But I think my biggest takeaway, and Denver maybe the loser leave town here in this game. I mean, I would definitely want Houston to be in. They're more fun to watch than the Steelers, Browns, some of these other teams fighting for wild cards, Indy. But I thought Russell Wilson kind of showed that if you got to bring your team back from behind, that's not him anymore. I mean, he's a caretaker. He's a certain kind of quarterback now that doesn't do that.
The Tampa Bay Buccaneers defeated the Panthers 21-18. Chicago.
I thought we weren't talking about this division. The Bucs are better than the Panthers. Move on. They all stink.
This is about Bears fans. Yeah, celebrating having the opportunity to get that number 1 pick in the NFL draft. A couple of teams that I almost don't want to talk about either, and I'm glad I planned it this way. I did not watch a single snap of a 6-0 Chargers win over the 2-10 New England Patriots. Wow.
So
Zappy wasn't the answer apparently for that.
No,
Patriots.
of course not. So New England is coming to town here in Pittsburgh in a couple days, Thursday. I mean, my buddies and I were joking. The over-under should be like 20. I mean, it really should. I mean, I think if you told me as a Steeler fan they got 13 points in that game, I'd be like, I'll take it. They'll win.
They cannot make the over-under low enough.
I don't know how you can. I can't wait to see in the betting world how that works throughout the week. Like, New England's defense is really good. They run the ball pretty well, but they lost Ramondre Stevenson right at the end of the second series. And I know all this only because they're coming to town. But their defense is still exceptional. They have no passing game whatsoever. I mean, they're throwing to Juju and Devontae Parker and those type of dudes. Yuck. I mean, they don't even use their tight ends anymore. And every game is a slugfest, and the Chargers were a little better. I don't have a lot of Chargers notes on this one.
Speaking of points, the Steelers run Matt Canada out of town and they can only muster 10 points against the Arizona Cardinals, Matt. Steelers fall to 7-5, losing 24-10 to the Arizona Cardinals, who pick up their 3rd win of the season.
Oh, man. The sky is falling, I can tell you. As I'm going to leave my house here after we hit record, I got to do so many Steelers shows, and it's going to be painful. So my 15-year-old daughter, who honestly does not know what a first down is, she learned in gym class about 6 months ago that you don't count the 5-1,000 at the line of scrimmage. You can actually rush the passer in the NFL.
No alligators in the NFL.
Right. So she doesn't know anything, but she went to this game and now thinks that's what going to a Steeler game is like, that it's going to pour really cats and dogs, 2 rain delays, and the whole place is going to be miserable as you lose to one of the worst teams in the league in pretty handily. And your starting quarterback is hurt and just miserable. And I give the Cardinals credit. They played well. They didn't make mistakes. They hit McBride like crazy in the first half, who's a really good young tight end, who's flying up the dynasty boards. And then they just gouged them with the former Steeler Panther, James Conner, coming home. But the Steelers made very few adjustments, made so many mistakes. It's a perfect, what I'm going to talk about the rest of the day is when you live by winning the turnover battle, penalties, not missing field goals, and you don't blow teams out, which they're not even close to being capable of doing. sometimes it's going to go the other way, and this time it went the other way. I mean, it was things like you couldn't get in the goal line on 4th and 1. You took a defensive pass interference call in the end zone. You had 2 bad snaps in critical situations. Boswell actually missed a kick, which never happens. Like all the self-inflicted wounds that this team hasn't done all year, all compounded in this game. And frankly, I have more respect for the Cardinals, especially their offense now than ever. But the Steelers took them lightly. Like if you listen to like the locker room after, they say things like, "Oh, Trey McBride was better than we thought." Like, what'd you do all week? I mean, just watch him on tape. Yeah, he's really good.
Last one here, really fun game. In overtime, the Indianapolis Colts went to Tennessee, defeated the Titans.
Crazy.
31-28. Unlike the NFC South, the AFC South's kind of getting fun this year, Matt, with the Texans. Now the Colts at 7-5, and we've got the Jags on Monday night that could potentially be the 1 seed after 13 weeks of the NFL season. 31-28 here. Derrick Henry went for 102 yards and a couple scores, but then came up hurt at the end of this football game. It's not like the Titans were going to go anywhere. They're 4-8 right now. Potentially could see no more Derrick Henry ever in Tennessee.
Yeah,
I don't know how
maybe.
bad that injury is going to be for him, and we'll check in on him tomorrow, and I'm sure we'll get more updates on that. Minshew, really up and down game, 300 yards passing, a couple touchdowns, but had a costly fumble, and I don't know how to take the Colts, but at 7-5, they're in it either way.
Yeah, and so really fun game, like extremely watchable from an outsider standpoint. Whoa, this is back and forth, crazy blocked punts, injured holder. Tannehill has to go out there and hold for the first time since A&M or whatever, and didn't do it well. But 2 really aggressive, hair on fire quarterbacks, and I think Levis just doesn't know that he doesn't know. And I think Minshew does too, even though he's been in the league for 8 years or whatever. Like, who cares? Just sling it. Aggressive as could be.
He's a gunslinger without a gun.
Without a gun. Yeah. With a little, with a BB gun, right. And Fitzpatrick was kind of that guy. I always call Minshew like the next Ryan Fitzpatrick. Like, great. You're fun to watch, but boy, you are a roller coaster without the tools. Michael Pittman's a foundation player. Titans kind of found an offense, I guess, a little,
Too late for them.
Yeah.
But this is a learning year for the Tennessee Titans. So now you get Levis and Tyjae Spears, and kind of evaluation mode, but kind of feel better about their evaluation mode than like the Commanders or maybe some of the other teams we've been talking about, because your head coach is going to be there next year.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned the Henry injury. They also lost Jeffrey Simmons, their best defensive player. We'll see how long that's out too. So, I mean, we know the rest of the season is not going to go well for Tennessee. It's evaluation time.
And you know who's out? Fun. Matt Williamson out tomorrow. He has a ton of Steelers stuff to do, getting ready for a short week, and a Thursday nighter for the Pittsburgh Steelers, which, of course, we will preview, and we'll start making our picks and turning the page to next week. And
think about that over-under. Might be 17.
I can't recall less than
with Trubisky.
High 20s.
Oh, I know. Whatever it is, I think I'm going under. I can't believe it'll come out at 20.
It won't. No. Can't wait for that one. All right. Thanks everybody for making us your first listen, and I'll be right back here tomorrow. Peacock and Williamson.